This recording's in progress, so I'm going to say the clinic started now, even though we're a minute early. So everybody's on here. We've got 16 so far, not the 57 I was hoping for. Uh, but I'm hoping. I understand why some people can't do that. It's just life, right? It's like running. I'm swapping emails with one person in our clinic, and I've actually got more than one email about this. Is trying to find the time to run, right? And it hit me last night. When did we get so busy? When we get so busy we can't actually go out for a 30-minute run? And I'm the same boat. I'm retired, so I should have like all the time in the world. I don't have time. I don't know what happens there, but it's a problem. It's like, how do you set that time? Oh, okay, it's 9 o'clock. We started. So yeah, so let's I'm going to talk about shoes. I've got a recording I'm going to play. It's about 30 minutes long. Okay, 25 minutes. I'm lying. It's 30, but it's about shoes. Save your questions till the end. You can use the chat if you want, but I just assume run this. And yeah, I taped it in our store. I was going to try something else today. I was going to try to do tether to my phone and do this from somewhere else, but then I found out how expensive that was, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, and all you guys, hands up, how many people have got your runs in this week? Right on. Right on. Good, good, good. Oh, you're up to 21 now. Good. Yeah, I like the chat thing too. And yeah, I like what Susan's doing too. Do other stuff too. Do walks, do bikes, do swims. Just have fun. I've run a few 5Ks already here for technique. Okay, Emily, we'll get the technique down too. And yeah, and what I'm finding too a lot is, okay, I want to get the video soon, but what I'm finding a lot is when I get the emails from you guys and talk to you guys on Saturdays, it tells me where we're going to go, right? And a lot of times it's a common theme. Every kind of common theme. How do I run? How do I find the time to run? And what do I do? So it's you'll see some topics repeat themselves a lot, just say. And we're into week. This is week 3. Oh my God, guys, we've only got like 7 weeks to go. Okay, so you better be running. Anyhow, I'm going to run the video. I'm going to try to share this because it's probably going to take me a couple seconds to figure this out. Because if I don't, well, you'll just have to listen to me talk. Share screen. There, good. We'll do advanced there. We'll do video there. Okay, I did this. Good. We'll do this. Open. Oh, come on. Okay, this may not work. Bear with me, guys. Share screen. Video. Why did it not work? Desktop. There we go. There. Open. Aha. Yay. Okay, can you see my face on the screen? Good. Hey guys, let's talk about the right shoe, finding the right shoe for you. How do you find the right shoe, right? A couple of things you should remember when you're thinking about shoes and think about your feet and what your feet do. That helps you pick out what shoe you should have. Remember when you run, basically you're jumping from foot to foot, you're landing on that front foot every time you take a step. That front foot has to do a couple things right away. First thing, it's got to absorb the shock. When you land, you're landing you're jumping. So you're landing like with 2 to 3 times your body weight on that front foot. That foot has to absorb that shock. Some of us do it perfectly. Some people need a little augmentation to do that. And the trick is to look at your feet. What do your feet look like? Do you have an arch? That arch has got to collapse when you land. There's a whole bunch of other things that happen. That's where it starts. So as long as it collapses, you absorb that shock, good to go. The other thing your feet have to do is they've got to balance too. Every time you take a step, just think you're landing on your foot unbalanced every time you take a step. There's an injury bound to happen. So what your feet actually should do, what they normally do, you might notice this when you run. Think about it today when you go for your run. It should actually land heel, roll out to the outside, inside, push off your toes. So supinate or underpronate, pronate, and off your toe. That's the normal stride. That's how it finds that balance, right? We used to think it's just heel to toe. It's not. That actually does that. So as long as your feet do that perfectly, good to go. You could probably run. Don't run barefoot ever, unless you're living in Mexico and you're running on sand. Fine, but if you're running on concrete, asphalt, anywhere around here, wear shoes. But yeah, so that's what your feet have to do. So when you think about shoes, you think about those 2 things, right? How do you find the shoe? How do you find the right shoe? You come see us. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. Once you find that shoe, yeah, you've got a bit more flexibility. If you learn to run, you're just figuring out which shoe. I know some of you guys have run for a bit longer. You know what you sort of know what you want, but we'll get into that in a bit. But how do we figure that out, right? Well, we usually do like 3 or 4 things when you come in the store. First thing, we watch for you when you walk in the store. We certainly know right away what you're coming in the store for, right? We're a running room, we sell shoes. So we got it. 9 times out of 10, you're coming to buy shoes. A lot of times we'll see you carrying a pair of shoes with you. Great, that helps. I'm gonna guess those are your shoes that you normally run in, or the worst shoes you've had. We wanna look for that for sure. And when we start peppering you with questions, right? As soon as you know you're coming to the shoe pit, we'll start asking you about where you run, how long you've been running for, distances, how often, what are you running on? Are you running on concrete, asphalt? Are you running on dirt, sand, feathers, right? We wanna know where you're running. And then we start saying, okay, what shoes have you had? Have you had any problems? What has worked? Have you shopped here before? What have you bought last time you bought here? Or are you brand new and starting out and you're just trying to figure out? That helps us as well. Then we go into what we normally do. We call it a gait analysis. It's sort of, we want to see what happens to your feet when you walk or run. We can actually have you run around the store, or sometimes outside the store, but usually inside the store. We don't have treadmills. There's a few reasons for that. One of the big thing is, you know what? Unless you've run on a treadmill before, it's kind of a waste of time. I've run on a treadmill 3 times in my life. It takes me 15 minutes to find my balance on a treadmill. And do you have that kind of time? And a lot of times, if you're running a treadmill, you have to have shoes on to start with, so it doesn't really tell me much. So watching you walk in your stocking feet, yes, we'll have you take your shoes off and walk in your socks. And we'll just watch for what your feet do. What we're looking for, there's one thing we're specifically really looking for. Actually, 3 things. But we're watching to see, first of all, when you walk, what do you push off on? If you're pushing off the front of your foot, off your toes, bingo, that's what we really want to see. That's what I said about balance, right? What your feet do. If we watch if you roll off the inside of your feet, or outside of your feet, or the inside of your feet. That's the other thing too. What do your feet do when you walk? Are you, again, dead center off of there? Or are you pushing off the inside of your foot or outside of the foot? So overpronating, I'm gonna say way overpronating. There's gotta be a better term for that because pronation is normal. And underpronating, that's the other one, supination off the inside or outside of your foot. So we're watching for that, and then we sort of determine from that where we should go with shoes, along with all the information you just filled us in on. I'll start bringing out shoes, and we'll start matching shoes, and then it's up to you. It's a lot of times it sounds like we're actually prescribing shoes for you. We just give you guys options, and it's up to you to pick the right shoe. So which shoe for which person, right? So again, we watch you walk, but the other thing we watch have you do too most times is we'll have you do a squat or a knee bend and a lunge. The squat, yeah, it helps. It's sort of, the walk probably does the same thing, but we'll watch when you bend your knees down, where do your knees line up? Do they line up with the inside of your big toe, outside, or dead center? And usually it's just your knees collapsing we see, right? So that tells us you're pronating inward. But does it happen when you run? Probably. The other thing we do is have you do a squat or a lunge. A lunge is more for balance than anything else. Are you able to balance? Are you rolling inside or out, trying to correct that balance? That helps us too. And then we start going for shoes. First thing we usually hear, one thing we hear a lot from customers when they walk in, they'll say, I have a high arch. No, they won't even say that. They'll say, I need support underneath my arch. I want to feel support underneath my arch. When we hear that term, we're automatically thinking it's somebody that pronates. You need support? That's what support is for, right? So we automatically goes to a stability shoe. We'll talk about a stability shoe right away, but that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is they've got a high arch and they think they need something right underneath that arch. No, never. You want that arch to move, right? If you put something underneath that, that's a problem. So in a minute, I'll show you what stability looks like. But problem with high arch, we'll talk about that in a minute too. That usually means they're running on the outside of the feet. So if you put in a shoe that corrects rolling in, what happens pushes it even out further. But a lot of times high arch is actually just an arch. And an arch is awesome. An arch is what's absorbs the shock, right? So yeah, that's a key word. But the keywords there's tons of keywords. When you tell me what hurts, that tells me stuff too. Okay, so what do we talk about when we talk about needing support, pronating inward, rolling off the inside of your feet? We go to a shoe we call a stability shoe. A stability shoe, there's a bunch of different kinds now. That's changed over the years. But what it's built to do is to prevent you from rolling in and pushing off the inside of your feet. Now, it depends how severe that is. A lot of brands will have 2 or 3 different types of stability shoes. And by stability, we mean the supports on the inside of the shoe, post-medial support on the inside of the shoe. And what that's designed to do is if you roll in, it actually doesn't let you do that. It actually forces you to push off your toe and not overpronate. I think you'll still do this, the stride, right? The balancing thing, but it's not gonna let you roll in. So the problem with that is there's various levels of pronation, right? Some people a little bit, some people a little bit more. So there's different shoes that do that. The best shoe ever for demonstrating that is ASICS. ASICS has like 4 or actually 5 options. They've got the Kayano, the GT2000, the GT1000, and I'm gonna say the Nimbus. So that's 4. Because again, what people find when they feel that support is it's higher, lower, 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 and then almost flat. But again, all 4 levels do the same thing. If you have too much pronation, what happens is it's gonna push your feet to the outside. So that's the key, is don't overdo it, just do it. But if it's just a subtle bit of, if it is just pronation, there's a couple different brands now that do things differently. And I love the fact that what they do, instead of forcing your foot, they actually guide your feet. So a lot of times with me, what I'm looking for is how extreme is this pronation. Then it tells me maybe we don't need to go very far. We maybe have to go to, the best ever right now is, well, there's no such thing as the best shoe, but the nicest technological, it's hard to say, change has been Brooks. Brooks has done something really interesting. I'll grab their shoe. They've gone from being the big honking piece of plastic there, or rubber, to, they call them guide rails, one on either side of the shoe. One's more towards the heel, one's on the heel, and more on the instep. But what it does, instead of forcing your feet, it just guides your feet. So no matter what you're doing, the transition goes to off your toe, which is really, really cool. It's not forcing your feet, so it's not forcing your knees, not forcing your hips. I love these shoes. The cushioning in Brooks is amazing too, by the way. But a guide rather than force. So that's a word to remember, 2 terms to remember when you try on shoes. Do you need the really big time support, or just need a little bit? Just need to be guided? I love that. I'm sure physiotherapists love that too. So I'm gonna say guide rather than force. And Brooks has basically done this to all their shoes. They've taken their shoes, they used to have a whole bunch of different brand models. They've narrowed it down to, they'll have a shoe like the Glycerin, which is somewhere along here. The Glycerin, which is just a neutral shoe, we'll get to those in a minute. So no support, just a neutral shoe, just cushioning, and that's it. But they've taken that shoe and they've made a different model. It's called the Glycerin GTS, which is this shoe here. So what they've done is with this shoe, they kept the cushioning in the shoe and they've added the guide rail. So you have more options. And it's the difference between shoes too is gonna be the level of cushioning and as well as support. So the cushioning can be a little bit better than the Glycerin than in, say, the Adrenaline, but the guide rails are there. So again, what feels best, what fits the best, and what the shoe does the best. So I love that. Guide rails is cool. The other cool thing, brand right now is ONS. The brand name is ON, ON. If you look at the logo, that's actually supposed to be a light switch. The cool thing is, look at what they've done to the sole of the shoe. These things are called pods. And what the pods do is when you land that pressure, right? The pods actually provide the cushioning. They actually, I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this, but these pods actually will collapse. I'm not Schwarzenegger, but they will collapse. So it's like you're landing on a cloud, which is awesome. And then what happens with them when they collapse, you push off a hard surface, which is also cool. A lot of shoes, what they do is the cushioning will be just up to here, and then there won't be, so when you land soft and you push off the toe, it's a hard surface. It does the same, kind of the same thing, but I love the technology. The other thing about the pods is they can do different things with the pods. What they've done for stability shoes, again, they guide. What they've done is they can harden and soften the pods and just soften and harden, so when you run, you have that perfect stride. So if you pronate, they've knocked this out of the park. I love that. That's another option. Again, guide rather than force. So I love that term. Another brand that's done that too is Hoka. Okay, I can't remember what they call their plate. I'm gonna say it's a J plate. I might have that wrong. I'll have to check for sure. I'll mention that later after this recording. But it's, again, it guides your foot to push off the toes. And if you want cushioning in a shoe, Hoka is amazing. There's a video, I might show you a link, send a link to you guys. It's called the Hoka Rundown. It explains their shoes perfectly. It explains running perfectly too. We'll talk, I think we talked about midfoot strike, heel strike, and toe strike last week. I like what Hoka says in that video. One of the reasons people started talking about midfoot strike is because they felt when you landed on your heel, you stopped. Not that. I argued about that last week. But what they say in the Hoka video, running is not a continuous motion. It's not like rolling down a hill on a ski. It's a series of stops and starts, right? So you want to make those stops as comfortable and as minimal as possible. Something like this will do that for especially these shoes. So yeah, so stability, that's stability. Now, if you need a lot of stability, we used to have a shoe called Motion Control. We don't carry a lot of them right now. And again, they force your feet. If you're really rolling on the inside of your feet and you need a lot of support, you're one step away from needing an orthotic. I'm not going to talk about orthotics, so I'll have a physio coming in a few weeks. I'll talk about orthotics. But we used to say they felt like running on bricks with a brick on your foot because they were heavy and clunky. Not so much anymore. There's really, the weight of shoes right now is minimal. So there's not really much difference. There's some that feel like air, but yeah, the weight's not so much. And actually Brooks, for their motion control shoe, guide rails. So it's changed. So motion control shoes are sort of out of the window. There's years ago, there was an argument. I remember Runner's World had an article talking about motion control and stability shoes and asking if they solved more or harmed more feet than they actually helped. I think that argument is still going on. At one time we had a lot more motion control shoes and a lot more stability shoes. Now that's sort of shrunk. Some shoes we used to call motion control and now stability shoes. So and a lot of people are starting to say, well, maybe we should just go to neutral shoes. I still think some people need support. So that's an argument that's going to continue for probably the rest of eternity. So we've gone for stability shoes. Now we go to neutral shoes. Neutral shoes are just shoes that just cushioning. Every shoe has a sort of a little bit of stability in them, but it's basically usually just to hold the cushioning in. It's not really to force your feet or anything. So cushioning feet are neutral shoes. Something. Let's stick with Hoka. Let's check the big boy, the Bondi, the softest and nicest shoe ever made. Okay, maybe not. There's no such best shoe, but again, I like the cushioning in these. And all the neutral shoe is built to do is comfort. It's cushioning. It feels good. It shouldn't force your feet either way. Let your feet do what they're supposed to do, and then the stride will be perfect. And a lot more people than we used to think, neutral shoes. So neutral shoes an option. And then while you're trying shoes, as you're trying them on, I'm listening to what you say. I'm listening, okay, this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel right. So every time you say something like that, or you say something feels really good, it tells me what shoe we should be going to next. So you are the driver of what shoes we go to. Also for underpronation, I didn't really mention that a lot. Only people I know that underpronate are people with really high arches, and what happens is they walk or run on the outside of their feet. They can't, that's the way they're built. So before, years ago, we didn't have shoes that actually addressed that. That's where Brooks comes in, right? We used to put people in neutral shoes and say the shoes will work with your feet, and it sort of did. We may have been lying. Sometimes it did. It's obviously it worked because we never got shoes sent back. But Brooks again with the GTS shoes, I'll grab this right this time. They've got the support on the outside of the feet. So if you do roll out the outside, it actually corrects that and pushes off your toe. So again, great idea, great bit of technology. It's nice when you have runners actually help design the shoes, right? So yeah, so good. So we'll watch for that, we'll listen for that. And there's so many stories I have where people come in and they bought a shoe, and maybe they bought it online, bought somewhere, whatever, and it's just the wrong shoe. And you'll see it right away. You see them walk, and you'll talk to them, and you'll find out what hurts, and bingo, you know where you're going. And a lot of times, the other thing too is trust yourself too. A lot of people will put on a shoe and it'll be like the first one they try and they'll say, wow. That's sort of a key. If you say that, I think you found your shoe. A lot of times it's if they've had a really old shoe and buy a new shoe, they find that as well. But that wow moment, don't spend a lot of time trying on shoes. We had somebody in here a couple weeks ago, spent 2 hours here trying on shoes. She came back 2 days later, tried another hour. You should never spend that amount of time. You should never try and say, I'm going to say 3 or 4, 5 shoes tops. I'm going to say 3 or 4 at the most. If the guy you're working with knows what he's doing, he won't go beyond that anyhow. But yeah, don't go beyond that. Don't get overwhelmed. If you do feel overwhelmed, There's nothing wrong with leaving after, say, half an hour, saying I'm going to come back tomorrow and start again. You'll sort of have an idea where you're going, but don't spend a whole eternity here. Spend time, don't walk in and say, I've got 5 minutes to buy a pair of shoes, but take the time to do it right, but don't overdo it. The other option is, if of the shoes you've tried, pick the one that felt the best. Take it home, wear it around the house. If you have a treadmill and you have run on a treadmill before, try it on there. If you can do an indoor track, that's also another option. Most stores will let you do that for 30 days. Just keep them indoors. Make sure they don't look like they've been running for 50 miles or something, and you can return them or try something else. But that's another option. Pick the best. And usually if it's the one that you said, oh wow, that's gonna be the shoe. And just trust the shoe. There's no such thing as breaking shoes in anymore. The only thing you're doing is basically your body's getting used to that new shoe. And if you've had the shoe that wasn't working, the new shoe may realign things a little bit, but yeah, give it time. Trust the shoe, just like trust the training, right? So that's the thing. Also, shoes, look after your shoes. Shoes are getting stupid expensive. I'm just gonna say that out loud. I mean, who knew there'd be like a $300 pair of shoes? I do, and there's one I wanna buy, but I have to save up my money. So I'll save money from my paper route. But shoes are expensive, they're valuable, they're used for one thing, right? Running. Okay, you can use them for walking as well, but if you bought them for your runs, use them for runs. They'll last longer. If you're using them for washing the car, shoveling snow, cutting lawns, raking leaves, they're not gonna last as long. If you're wearing them every day to just do everything, they're not gonna last as long. So yeah, stick to using them for running. How do you know when a shoe's done? How long should a shoe last? It's different for everybody. I just watched the video and from one of the products, and they said, okay, it should be about, I'm gonna say 800 kilometers or 8 months or some stupid thing. Nah, it's different for everybody. Two examples I always use is like take a 90-pound ballerina and a 400-pound linebacker, both wearing the same shoes, both running, say, 10K 3 times a week. One runs on asphalt, one runs on feathers. Which shoe's gonna last the longest? Well, they're gonna last different times, right? It's like a car. It's if you're driving every day or you're driving once a month, how long are those tires gonna last? It depends on you. So it's what I tell people to do is you buy a brand new pair of shoes, mark that date on a calendar, write it on the inside of the shoe if you want. And as soon as something does not feel right, especially for me, it's my lower back. Sometimes some people's knees, depends what the shoe's built to do. But when something doesn't feel right, mark that date down or mark down that mileage, and never ever let your shoes go beyond that length of time. I usually overlap. I'll buy like a month before the shoe's overdue or for distance or time. And so you never get injured. Don't run in worn out shoes. So do that. And yes, they're expensive, so you want to make sure you get that right. But do that. Other thing is look after the shoes. Do not wash them. Do not throw them in the washing machine. Do not soak them in water. Wipe them off if you want to keep them clean. We use baby wipes at the store. But really, just they're running shoes. If they get dirty, that's what they're built to do. Yeah, and if you do happen to get wet in a rainstorm or you have to run through a lake, let them dry naturally. Do not throw them in a dryer. That'll just destroy the shoes. The shoes have so many different glues and materials in them. Doing that would just tear everything apart. The shoes would fall apart and not do what they're supposed to do. So let them dry naturally. If you want, I hang mine from I wash mine by hand. If they get soaked, I'll just throw them on a clothesline and I'll pull out the insole, the laces, and let them dry naturally. That's all you need to do. Some people stuff newspaper loosely in them. Don't stuff it hard because it changes the shape of the shoes. And just pull that newspaper out every so often, and it'll take time, but they'll dry. Don't throw them on top of a radiator either. That's bad as well. But just let them dry naturally. Just expect dirty shoes. If you run on mud, yeah, just spray off with a hose and let them dry. Yeah, so I do that. Thing about the insole too is a lot of people, if you're running, I'm going to say wear socks. A lot of times we'll get customers in the store saying my shoes stink. Well, do you wear socks? No. Well, guess what? This insole stuff comes out. It's like the cheapest part of the shoe. Some do a bit more work with it. Ons, I'm not going to show it right now, but Ons does an amazing thing with their insoles. It sort of helps with the support of the shoe. But this thing, yeah, if it gets wet, if it gets soaked with sweat, if you're wearing barefoot all the time, this is going to absorb all that sweat. It'd be like running in a sock for like 6 months and wondering why your socks smell. That's why this thing stinks. So wear socks. I know a lot of people don't like doing that, but I mean, what doesn't feel better in a pair of new shoes, a pair of new socks, right? So do that. Okay, so that covers a lot of stuff in a short period of time. Cost, yeah, we talked about that. Again, expensive, but watch for sales. We don't do sidewalk sales anymore, but watch online. We have stuff marked down there all the time, especially if you know what shoe you want. We do have a warehouse back on in Edmonton that might have some stuff in stock. Some of our bigger stores, like 109th Street here in Edmonton, has a nice clearance center in the back. They do have older shoes too up for sale. Just remember, older shoes not going to last as long as a new shoe. Just air, right? Just the way things deteriorate. So, but watch for deals, watch for sales, and just expect, like, the shoes, figure out how much money you're spending per kilometer. That'll help. But yeah, they're expensive, but just look after them. Just like you wash your car and change the oil, look after your shoes. Socks, I'm going to talk about socks when we talk about apparel. But yeah, the new pair of socks and a new pair of shoes, great. I'm not going to talk about orthotics or insoles at all. Insoles, if you need them to augment the support in a shoe, fine. Do not ever use insoles to extend the life of a shoe, because that does not work. Once the shoe's done, it's done. Insoles are not going to fix that. And yeah, take care. Socks. Yeah, we talked about high arches. We talked about Hoka. Okay, so I'll end this because this is almost like over 20 minutes. So we'll talk about this stuff a little bit after. You could hopefully you've been writing down questions for me, and we'll talk. And yeah, get assessed at least. I would say every time you buy a shoe, do that, because it changes too. You get injured, things happen. So yeah, don't worry about doing that. Insist on it. Hey, I want you to watch me walk. If you're not in a place where you can get to a running room store, or a running store, we do have the virtual gait analysis at therunningroom.com. Do that. Yeah, and just, yeah, even if you want to film yourself and send me the email or picture or movie of you doing that, I can do that. A lot of times we'll run. We'll see people run and we'll say, hey, that's the wrong shoe. I've done that. I'll ask people about their shoes. Like, why did they like that shoe? And tell me a story too. It's one of the neatest stories is one lady came in. She lives out in the country. Her husband, I guess, burns garbage in incinerator. And he saw a bag by the back door one day and threw that in an incinerator. It was her brand new pair of shoes. It was a pair of shoes called Convera by Saucony, which is like, it's a track shoe. Again, another option for shoes. It doesn't really have much of anything. It's just basically ground, this, and you. But threw them away. So she came back, she's, crying, and she wants the same shoe. So I throw in the same shoe. And then she says, she tries them on. She says she's got a sore knee. And I said, pardon? And she said she had a sore knee. So I just said, okay, let's take their shoes off and let's go for a walk. And she walked, and she's almost right. She was neutral, but she just needed a little more shoe. She needed a structured shoe, more structure in it. Bingo, she was fine. There's so many neat stories like that. It's like another lady, again, this is where it comes in with the person saying they need support underneath their arch. Lady comes in, we're trying, and I see what shoes she has. And she says, not enough. So we tried more and more stability shoes. And after a while, she starts mentioning that she's walking on the outside of her feet. So I said, take those shoes off, walk. Well, she's actually got a high arch. She's actually walking on the outside of her feet. What she needed was something that stopped her from doing that, not something that have her do that. So again, it's just us watching, listening, and correcting. So I'll talk to you guys as soon as this is over. Bring your questions. I'll talk about more. There's probably lots of stuff I left out. And yeah. Come buy shoes. Right on. So the most important part of that, why is this not working? The most important part of that, why can't, okay, this is sort of working. Yeah, lots, you guys, I like the fact that you guys use chat a lot. That's really cool. It's nice seeing that feedback, and it's nice that you guys send me a lot of emails during the week. So that's awesome. I just looking at some of the posts people have put up there. Yeah, for the Echelon, yeah, you can get it. You can order straight from online. We don't have them in the stores. If we do have one in the store, it's just because somebody's returned it there. But you always have that option. But I would try the New Balance 840s. That's an option if you want to try the Echelon. New Balance 840s. I like it better for orthotics, so it's worth trying out. Other questions people had. I pretty much forgot. But 840s are great. Emily, I'll find out where that coupon is or why it's not working for you, but we'll figure that out as well. And yeah, this is actually good. You guys, I like that asking questions. As I was reading along as you guys were talking, as the thing went on, I could have gone for a run while that thing went so long. But okay, let's get rid of this. Chat close. Good. Amanda, why is this not working? I have no idea. View gallery. Good. Perfect. Good. So good. The other thing is a few things about on that talk that I didn't mention. One thing I want to really mention is not all feet, both feet do the same thing, or not both feet are the same size. We get that a lot. I've had people where they've actually had half a size difference between their feet. Laura has that. Yeah, and it's you want to accommodate the longer foot, not the shorter foot, but sometimes there's quite a difference there. Do the best you can with that. It's not going to be perfect. Don't wear a thicker sock to fix that. So I've had customers who had to buy two pairs of shoes because they needed two different sizes. That's extreme. Some brands will do that. Some people, I think Nike does that. I'll let you buy two shoes from them, but that's a problem. But also, 2 feet don't necessarily do the same thing. Like somebody will see me walk and they'll say I need support because I pronated on one foot. Problem is, I supinated on the other foot, so I'm actually leaning to one side. So if I get a shoe that fixes the pronation, I don't know if I got this right. It actually forces the other foot even further out. So I just go for neutral shoes. Actually, the Brooks shoes are best. Yeah, so watch that with both feet. Don't always do the same thing. Don't always have the same size. That's why you have to try the shoes on. And I know for a lot of people, you're not in a place where you can actually do that. So I would always lean towards doing the virtual gait analysis from us if you want to do that. I just know you can always return shoes. Even if you order straight from manufacturers, they'll let you return shoes and you don't have to pay for return. So that's an option. But yeah, that's always an issue. But if you can get into the store, it's just trying on a shoe makes a huge difference, right? It's like even like the difference between, like, I think I forget who's asking about the Echelon. The M4, the New Balance 840, I think for you might be perfect, but unless you try them on, how do you know, right? It's and especially with an orthotic, you want to try them with the orthotic in. So that's the other option. So you have to look at that. Other things people I was thinking about, first of all, another thing I didn't mention too in the talk is there's a difference between the type of cushioning on shoes. We call the difference between float and feel. And that's, float is you're floating over the ground. You don't actually feel the ground. Feel, you feel every step. Some people like one, some people don't like the other. So that's an option too. There's some shoes, Hoka's, if you look at Hoka's, you're floating for sure. You got that big cushioning thing platform on there. You're definitely floating over the ground. Where there's a shoe called it's by Brooks called the Levitate. The cushioning's pretty sweet. You have to run them to feel the cushioning, but you're basically, if you walk in them, you feel like you're touching every pebble on the ground. So there's differences there too. So you don't know until you try. And some people like, some people doesn't. I've tried feel, and I hated it. So I use a lot of cushioning. So watch that. If you can't get to a store, if you can't do the virtual thing, watch yourself in the mirror. Just stand on one foot, stand on the other, see what your feet do. That's an option. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. We used to tell people to do a wet foot test wet foot test is just dampen your feet in water, step on a piece of paper and see how your foot shaped, whether you have no arch or completely fill that in. That doesn't always work. It's like we always used to say when people had flat feet, they all automatically rolled in. They don't until we see them walk. I've had people with flat feet, but when they walked or ran, perfect form. They didn't need the support, but we used to say, well, flat feet, you need support. So not always true. So that's why you come to us. Other thing too is when we bring out a brand new pair of shoes for you to try on. This is funny. We never used to think about this until a manufacturer or one of our reps told me about this. When those shoes come from, say, China or Southeast Asia, they've been in one shape for that trip, right? When you put them on, they're going to feel stiff. So what we should be doing, and actually what you should maybe do too, when you bring a shoe in, I started doing this, just bend them in half. So you sort of break, not break the shoe, unpack the shoe. So it feels like it feels better. I've actually done that with one shoe and not the other. Customer will try on the shoes and say, well, this one feels all right, but this one feels a little stiff. That's why. So if you see one of us doing that, it's not because we're, breaking the shoe. Sometimes if you bring in a shoe, we'll do that with your shoe just to see how easy it is. If it's way too easy, then your shoe's worn out. But if it's a new shoe, we're just making it so comfortable for you to try on. Other thing too, a lot of people are maybe thinking about the environment, right? A lot of shoes are starting to think, okay, we maybe have to go green. Brooks has been doing that for probably, I'm going to say, for almost 8 years. Their boxes are recycled. Most of the product on their shoes has been recycled. Their shoes will actually break down in a landfill quicker than most every other shoe. So great for them. Other shoes are using castor bean oil to make plastic on their shoes rather than petroleum. So again, bonus. So interesting thing about that, right? Actually, Ons is actually making a shoe that's completely recyclable. You have to buy them by subscription. You send them to them, they tear the shoe apart, and they use the material from that shoe to build a new shoe. It's like a closed cycle. So that's kind of cool too. And others are doing that. Others are finally waking up saying, we don't need to use petroleum. We don't need to use brand new cardboard. We don't need to stuff paper in all our shoes. Brooks has never done that. And it blows my mind when I pull out a pair of shoes and I'm pulling out a piece of paper out of the inside of the shoe that's like been there for like 50 million years. And, you know, there's a force gone because of it. So if you want to think about that. Other thing too is different shoes have different, we call it, there's three terms we use: offset, drop, or ramp. There's a whole bunch of other ways. What it actually means is the height of the heel of the shoe, the inside of the shoe, and the toe box. Is some are more flat, like 4 millimeter, some are 0. That's different too. But most are like 10 millimeters. So the height of the heel is a little bit higher than the front of their shoe. So that makes a difference too. A lot of people, it's mostly comfort, but there's a function to it too as well. The reason a lot of shoes, Saucony for sure, went to 8 millimeter was promote more midfoot strike. It didn't really work. People that heel strike are still heel striking, but it's sort of just a comfort thing, which feels better. Some it's just they want to take the pressure off the front of their foot, so they go for a more level fit. If you're using your shoes for doing weights as well as running, which you shouldn't do, you should have separate shoes for that. But a lot of times having a more level foot shoe feels better. There's a brand called Ultra that's 0 drop. They're just basically flat. They're a feel shoe, not so much cushioning, but again, that's another thing to look for. And that's why you try on shoes. It's like, come see us or whoever. I'm not going to knock other sale places that sell shoes, but you want to go to place, especially first time, talk to somebody that actually knows their shoes. If they walk in and you just pull a shoe off the wall and they say, that's fine, don't go with them. The guy that sells the shoes should know a little bit about the shoes and I've worked with them. Easy question. Ask the salesperson, do you run? And then we'll talk forever about shoes. You want to talk about shoes? Find a runner. We'll talk for hours about shoes. Okay, so that's like a lot of talking. I see a lot of chats. Any questions? Let's see, chat. You balance 840. 11 new messages. Emily, there's a coupon there. Click online. Part of the clinic. That's it, Emily. It. Should be able to click on that. I don't know if there's a code on there or not, but it's not working. So we'll figure that out for sure. Who else? What are signs that shoes need to be replaced? There's a bunch of things. First of all, does the shoe just not feel right? Is something hurting? Especially for me, like I said last week, lower back. As soon as I feel that, it's time for a new shoe. Different, yeah. But other than that, you can look at the shoes too. Look at them like every month. What do the shoes look like? Does it look like it's starting to work? I didn't bring an older shoe. I brought some older shoes, but they're not that worn that far. But if you look at the bottom of a shoe, you'll see where the traction is starting to disappear, and you'll see like a gray color or a white color where that's starting to disappear. If you see that, that's gone to the midsole, and the midsole is not supposed to touch the ground. As soon as it does, that shoes eventually could just fall apart. So watch for that. But yeah, and again, you'll find that out. You'll find eventually you'll figure out that my shoes are only lasting this amount of time. From then on, never ever let your shoes go by on that time. Because the product the shoes are made out of now looks like the shoe will look great, like the uppers, and they won't look like the shoe's falling apart, but the structure of the shoe is gone. But yeah, so do that. The soles of my Mizunos are peeling off. So it feels great. Should I replace the sole? Get the shoulder just replace? I would replace the whole shoe, Brad. But I'd question how old is a shoe? Because that sounds if it's like with less than say 3 months, I would say I would get the shoe replaced. I'd go back to where you bought it and see if you can get it replaced.
Yeah, no, I bought the shoe probably it's about 6 years ago now, but like I haven't been running consistently on it. Like I've been switching to trail running, so I have a pair of trail running shoes. But okay, like these things started peeling off probably about 2 years into using it, and I've re-glued them once, but now it's starting to like disintegrate. But like the overall shoe still feels awesome. So
I'd say the shoe's done. I mean, if you can glue them on, that's fine, but it's a hard one. I've seen that happen to a shoe less in 90 days, and it's been a manufacturer problem. But for that length of time, I would say it's a shoe's done. What I would do too. You don't have to do this, but if you can, just go try on a new pair of shoes and see if you notice a difference.
Yeah,
But
because it's one of those weird soles like that mesh with the rubber kind of embedded into it, and like the mesh part is what's fallen off. So it's weird. So yeah, like I said, just wanted to see whether you thought it was worth just trying to get the whole sole replaced or just go for a new pair of shoes. But I got 6 years out of them, so I guess I can probably get off my wallet. So, but no, not 6 years worth of continuous use. So.
Sure. Amanda's not a shoe question, but how to manage the breathing. I feel like a big jump. I'm taking a breath in over 3 strides and extending over 3 strides. That's not bad. That's fine. I feel that though I might hyperventilate. Amanda, I would just ask how hard you're running. How fast are you running?
I think that's something I have to work on. I think I was running too fast. I took the dog out with me the other day and realized that slowed me down. So it's still something I'm working on. I ran this morning. I did my 3rd run, and I about halfway through, I went, okay, I've got the rhythm. But the first half, it's like it maybe just too fast.
Yeah, I'm going to say it is, because your breathing sounds perfect, but it's probably the effort. Like I said last week, I've tried to take a breath for every step. That's when I hyperventilate. So yeah, so I just back off of it. Just the effort, make it easier. Susan from Port Moody, you bought the pink. Okay, they're not pink. They're called Wild Rose. So they're not pink shoes, Amanda or Susan. They're actually Wild Rose. But yeah, I love them. And,
and they fit the best. So
I'm gonna say they're probably the Kianos.
Yeah, the Asics Kianos. Yeah.
King of shoes. It's like the best cushioning, the best support you can get in a shoe. So perfect. And once you find that, you're going to find at some point they will change the shoe a bit. Sometimes you find a shoe you love and they discontinue it, and then your head explodes. That's going to happen. But somebody asked about, is it worth trying different brands? Of course. When you come to our store, I will do that. I'll bring out 3 different brands for you to try, even if you say you want one. A lot of times there's a store contest for employees, and we're bringing out that shoe because we want to win. But a lot of times it's just you don't know until you try that shoe, right? And some shoes do feel similar. Like if you run in Saucony, Brooks is pretty similar to a Saucony. New Balance, every shoe fits differently. New Balance always fits wider. I think somebody asked about the Echelon. Well, I mentioned the 840. The New Balance 840 has a different shaped toe box, so that's always an option. Some have narrower toe boxes. Asics is bad for that. Also, Asics is a shot in the dark sometimes too, because they don't seem to get their sizes right season to season. 1 year, a size 8 will be size 8, but the next season it might be size 7.5, or size 8 might be a 9.5, or be narrower or wider. So that's why you try on shoes. Any good shoes for running in the rain, Vanessa? There's actually another person, probably Laura's going to ask the same question. You know what? You can go for shoes that have Gore-Tex on them. There's On's got one right now that's pretty nice, but just enjoy it. Your feet are going to get wet. You can get specific socks to keep your feet dry. I think they're made by a company called Gator, and they're just like a neoprene. So guess what this is going to feel like after a short run? So just enjoy the rain, Laura. You're in Vancouver. It's going to rain no matter what. Use non-slip for work at restaurant. The non-slip works. Yeah, okay, for sure. Are going to get wet. Wall socks, though, keep your feet warm. Icebreaker socks, okay, for sure. And we keep the same shoes during the winter and Quebec winter, for sure, Barba. I've sort of switched over to winter shoes just because I did have a bad fall, so I've done that. But I do say they will feel warm once it gets warm outside. It's just because of the Gore-Tex, and they don't stretch. So if you wear a shoe and you find that it just fits, you throw Gore-Tex in it, it's going to be really constricting. So pay attention to that. But again, New Balance sells winter shoes as well with Gore-Tex, and they fit nice. So again, you have to try. But winter shoes are fine. It's going to rain, Laura. Just sorry about that. But actually, funny thing about Vancouver, I found out that bears actually eat coyotes. So I think if you introduce bears into Stanley Park, that'll take care of the coyote problem. But yeah, okay. Direct message. Emily's got one good. Okay, so that, any other questions about shoes? I'm just rolling through the chats here real quickly. And it's nice that you guys are interacting again. I love that part. So perfect. And I should watch the time because my boss's head will explode if I go over an hour. Just saying. Breathing, yeah. Breathing again. It's just if you can't catch your breath, back off. It's as long as you're running, as long as your feet are turning over, you're fine. this isn't about being fast, right? It's just being comfortable. It's a little bit more effort than walking, but I always say it's effort, minimal effort, not hardcore. When we get at the 5K, 10K distance, maybe a little bit better, but just yeah, you'll be fine. It's nice if you could. I wish I could run with all you guys. We should have a group run. We'll meet in Central Canada somewhere and we'll run together. But yeah, just yeah. I know it's a challenge, but yeah, I'm going to talk about that maybe a little bit next week. Just like I said, I think last week or one of my emails, just think of a scale from 1 to 10. We used to call it the Borg or the Berg scale. And think of 1 as easy, 10 as hard, as going like you can't catch your breath. You should be closer to that 1. As long as you're moving, it's not about how fast you go. It's just as you run, you want to run. And make sure it's not a fast walk. Other than that, you're fine. Okay, you guys are comparing colors now. I'm buying a Coral pair of New Balance shoes. This is where I say it's not how the shoe looks, it's how the shoe feels. I know a lot of people have started arguing about that, but it's bottom line, that's it. It's a running shoe. You're not taking it to a dance. You're not taking it to a wedding. It's for running. So yeah. And I think I talked about taking care of your shoes too. Just look after them. It's important too. And just don't mind them getting dirty. They're great breathing. I found myself using a 4 count. It works best for me. Yeah, it's cool. I like that, Stacy. Any good shoes for running in the rain? No. Keep the shape shoes. Shin splints. Shin splints are Vanessa. Makes me faster than ever. Yeah, perfect, Emily. That's good. Yeah, Vanessa, have you actually seen anybody for the shin splints? That's going to be the big thing. No, I would say see a physio right away. I'm going to say it's not the shoes. I'm going to say it's not running. It might be just a little bit of a change of something. Maybe compression socks might help. We're starting to get worse again. Yeah, yeah, do that. I think you're in Calgary and find a physio, look for a physio that understands that you're a runner. And I think that's the way to go because I've seen that a lot of times it's people that have just started. But I think you've been doing this for a while, so there's been a problem for a while. But a lot of times I'll somebody that's just started running, they get shin splints because, well, they've started running like continuously, running fast, running on hard surfaces. It's going to happen. But you just want to make sure, because it might be shin splints, but there's about a dozen different diagnoses that sound like shin splints. Is it in a couple months? Yeah. Is it on one side of the shin or on both? Inside. See, that might be the shoe as well. Because shin splints can be, I don't know the terms, but it could be on one side of the shin or on the other side of the shin. So if it's one or the other, it might be the wrong shoe. I would say see a physio that runs will understand that as well. And they may just take and bring your shoes with you and they'll be able to tell you and they'll figure it out. But yeah, we got a place in Edmonton called the Glenn Sather's Sports Medicine Clinic. I love. There must be something like that in Calgary as well. I would check something like that out and just make sure it's specific. And yeah, we'll get that fixed. Cool. Okay, I'll take a look. Alternating, Emily, yeah, alternating speeds makes me faster. Emily, that's perfect. Again, we'll talk about that as we go along. I really don't like talk about speed for learn to runners, but I know there's people in here that have done triathlons and Spartan races and stuff too. And you know what? Alternating speeds, I don't know if you guys notice this when you run, that changes as well too, right? You find as you go along, your speed changes, you pick up speed a little bit, you slow down a little bit. A lot of times when we run races, nobody runs the race at the same speed all the way through. They'll slow down, they'll pick up pace, whatever. So that happens. So it's almost a natural thing, but you can do that. I don't know if I talked about speed train, or we call it speed play or fartleks, is you just pick a spot, run a little bit faster that spot, slow down to another spot and pick up speed again. That helps, but this is talking about shoes. We're not going to talk about speed. There are some shoes that will make you faster too. Yeah, I'm kidding. But if we do have a $300 pair of shoes in our store, if you want to buy that, I will say they make you faster.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? There's actually a few people from Edmonton on here, which is really cool. It's nice to have a few people from here. I'm going to say there's way too many people on here. I'm not going to say there's too many people from Calgary, but there's a lot of people from Calgary on here, which is kind of interesting too. Last clinic, they all seem to come from Etobicoke, which is really weird. Yeah, it's sort of neat to see where people run too. It's inspiring. So yeah, so if any of you guys are on the Facebook group, there's a lot of you now. All of a sudden, just throw pictures up there and let me know what you're doing. Anybody else? Yeah, I think I saw my buddy from South Africa on here. Where is she? Where is she? Come on. Okay, maybe she's not anymore. But I
Well,
was gonna ask,
technically, I'm living in Edmonton now, but I'm originally from South Africa.
I gotta ask you, have you ever been in our store in St. Albert?
I have not, but
Okay.
my friends have. That's how I got to the Running Room Clinic.
Right on.
Yes, Nadia and Stefan Bakker.
Cool.
They
Yeah, we had a customer, I think, I don't know how long ago, but she was made me try to guess her accent and where she was from, and South Africa, which was really, I thought Australia, I thought New Zealand, I thought England, I thought Scotland, but South Africa. That's cool. That's why I thought of that. Cool. Anybody else at all? Okay, guys, come on. This is your clinic. Any questions at all? As long as it's not about raining.
Wasn't on what?
Raining. I know there, yeah. Kristen, how's Yellowknife?
It's good. It's good. Yeah. I did my first runs outside. It's a nice sort of transition period with the yellow, and there'll be snow in a couple weeks, but it's good.
So do you guys get like the 24 hours a night and 24 hours a day?
Well, in the summer at its peak, there's a twilight period. So no, it's not like further up where there's 3 months in the dark. We always have a little bit of daylight in the winter,
Okay.
even if it's just 4 hours.
Okay, that's fine. That's kind of interesting. I know guys have gone up there like for a golf tournament. It was called like a 24 or
Midnight
whatever.
Yeah. We're missing. Yeah. This is the transition period.
Oh. Nice.
I guess I do have a shoe question then. What's the difference between like a trail running shoe and a street shoe, other than the size of the lugs on the sole? Is there a difference at all, or?
For sure. It depends on the shoe. Some shoes more than others. Like a trail shoe will have like a hard part for rock thing sort of thing. The other thing is depends on what shoe you wear when you run on streets or asphalt, right? If you run only on trails, you don't really have to think about the pronation, supination, whatever. You can actually run in a neutral shoe because the ground takes care of that. When you talk about supination and pronation, it's more for hard surfaces like concrete and asphalt. If you're running off-road, that's probably the biggest difference, is a neutral shoe period. I don't think there's even such a thing as a stability shoe for off-road. So yeah, other than that, and I've run races with street shoes. So, I mean, you can do that as well. But I think depending what you're running in, Brad, forget where you're from.
I'm in Edmonton.
Okay, that's yeah. If you're doing trails in Edmonton, you can actually use street shoes mostly. But if it's like there's trail races in Edmonton, I would wear trail shoes for as well. It's the comfort.
Yeah, I got them when I was running the Spartan races and stuff like that. And those are usually on ski hills and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done Sinister 7 in both street shoes and trail shoes. I'll definitely wear trail shoes because there's some spots where you want to make sure you have that traction. That's and yeah,
especially if it's raining, right? So, okay, yeah, no, I was just kind of curious to see whether or not I needed to continue to buy 2 pairs, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing much trail running anymore. But that's what I love. I miss the trees.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different feel for running. Everybody else listen to this. It's like I like running off-road because if you're running on a street or a trail, even a paved trail, you can see where you're going. Off-road, you're making turns, you're running around the trees, you're running up hills, running down hills. You don't see the finish line, and it's just more fun. It's just way more of a blast. I always feel like I'm running faster. I'm not, but it's if you can find a trail that's not paved anywhere, I know not a lot of people have that option, but if you can find it, it's unreal. It's more fun. And yeah. Okay, anybody
faster on the flat parts too, especially if you're running hills.
Yeah, and it's just more fun. It's like the difference between triathlon and just doing marathons. It's more stuff. You get to spend more money, but it's better for you all around to run off road. Yeah, and mountains. If you can find mountains, there's no mountains in Edmonton, but we wish. There's stairs, but yeah. Okay, anybody else? 60 messages on there. If too tired, we just go out the door anyway and walk. Perfect, Barbara. Yeah, for sure. Lower bands, should we consider the shoes more for support? If so, for street running. Lower back sensitivity. I would try. You know what? For lower back sensitivity, I would actually what I was mentioning about the offset or the drop or the angle of the shoe. That's where I would go. Not so much for the support. I'm going to say for what your back feels best in. Lower back's tough, but I think that's probably it. It's going to be, do you feel better with a flatter foot or with the heel higher up? That's where you try things. And walking's fine. But yeah. Jet shoes. Okay, Brad. Yeah. But yeah, it's Barbara, it's a, how do you, yeah, it's try and effort. I'm just curious, do you use orthotics by any chance, Barbara? Too tired. No, she's not. Barbara is you, I think. Barbara. Oh, Barbara, cool. Yeah, for lower back sensitivity, I'm going to say it's going to be, yeah, that's going to be the issue. It's not going to be the support. I'm going to say it's because the support's for fit specifically, right? For the back, I think it's going to be more for a secure shoe. I'm going to say the height of the heel of the shoe. That's going to be the difference. Cool. So we're almost on an hour, guys. So I should actually let you guys go. Again, keep using the email. Send me emails all the time because I have no life, so I'll answer everything and anything. I will send out the schedule on Monday. I learned my lesson. I tried to avoid that last week, and I got lots and lots of emails asking where's the schedule. So I'll do that. Yeah, and Laura's going to sign up for that hypo half as well as all of you. In Vancouver, it's going to be in person, and it's going to be, I don't know where it is, but it'll be raining. So do that. And we'll talk to you guys. We'll talk to you next week. And just, yeah, keep feeding me questions because that'll tell me where we're going next. Next week, of course, I don't know if I said, but next week is going to be the Sports Bra talk. We're going to have somebody from Brooks here talking about Sports Bra. There may be a draw. So maybe everybody will show up here. And guys, we should listen to, we will learn stuff. Just saying, it's worth it. So we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Warren.
Hey, guys. And
Thank you.